Hello, everyone. We're going to be getting going in a second. Andrea and I have not gone dual live in a bit, so we're trying to remember how to actually invite the other person. So just 1 second. How's everyone doing while you're waiting for me to figure this all out? Andrea, if you can see this, I cannot see you in the invite list yet, so you might have to go live. I don't know. I'm refreshing. Hello to Oregon. Oh no, you've got COVID. That's too bad. I'm sorry. I have coffee, but I don't have COVID. There is a way to make her co-host, but we're not sure if she needs to go live first or not. I just checked the list of people I can invite as far as my friends. And, oh, invite. There we go. I'm pushing. Andrea, it's showing you there, but not like dual. Hold on, I'm going to change to co-host. Oh, goodness. Bear with us. I'm going to exit your invite because I can't see you, Andrea. And I'm going to, wait, I can hear you. Maybe?
Can you hear me?
I can, but I can't see you. So I think I'm going to end this and then try the other method. Just 1 second. Where? I can't search for you. Yeah, I think you have to go live in order to do the co-host option. Hi. We'll get it. We'll get there eventually. I wish that I was doing a top-down one instead of having to have you see my face doing doing this. Yeah, because I can see a couple other friends that are live currently. So I'm assuming if you go live, then I'll be able to see you. I'll recheck now. While I'm doing this awkward thing where I have to keep looking like this, tell me if anybody has any questions to get started. I have compiled the questions that we got asked, but if you've got new questions, drop them in the comments. I don't see you. Share, maybe? So today, Andrea and I are going to just be answering questions in honor of World Watercolor Month. It's July, so welcome to everybody. There we go. I see you. I see you. Continue. All right, I have invited you. Hopefully, Andrea will be here in just a second.
If this works.
Hey.
Whoa. It was touch and go there for a second. I was getting real worried. Oh my God, my thing is it's like
wobbly.
Yes. Sorry. Hi.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I'm gonna have to turn it this way. I feel like I haven't we talk every day, obviously, but I haven't seen you other than your videos in a while because we haven't done
I know it's Zoom or the last time I think we actually saw each other's faces when we were doing our homemade art school earlier this year.
I know. I was thinking about that the other day and I was like, man, we need to rekindle our homemade art school. I could use it.
Me too. Me
yes.
too.
All right. So it looks like I don't know if I'm seeing how many people are on for you or how many are on for me. I'm such a dork. I don't know how to do this at all.
I don't know how the dual lives work. I feel like I'm pretty good at the normal lives, but not the dual ones.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't either. But I guess so for the people that are on here, hi to the people that are saying hi. We just wanted to come on because it's World Watercolor Month for July, which there was another watercolor artist that was like saw my post and she was like, I've never even heard of that. And I'm like, I think last year was the first year I was aware of it. But anyway, so we just wanted to answer some questions about watercolor and like maybe demo some stuff and hang out.
Yes, for sure. Also, maybe we should take just a second since we're on with both of our audiences. Just for those who don't know, my name is Lacey. I'm an artist here on TikTok and elsewhere. But I do watercolor, I do some acrylic stuff, I do a bunch of other stuff, including silversmithing and things like that. And then through TikTok, I met my new best friend in the whole world, Andrea, who does a lot of similar things. So I'm sure most of you know who she is, but Andrea, why don't you take just a second in case anybody is unfamiliar with your beautiful face?
Well, I just assume everybody already knows you. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just paint stuff, make stuff, put videos up. I don't know. I don't know. I always feel weird because it's like I'm self-taught. I don't know any more than anybody else. Like I never went to art school or anything like that. But I just like making stuff. So when I see something that I like, my first thought is always like, how did they make that thing? And then I just want to make it. And I think Lacey's the same way, and that's why we get along so well. Because if there is a craft supply that we don't have, we will both buy it and use it once at least.
That's true. I recently went through my craft closet because I have like a whole closet just full of all sorts of supplies, and I did get rid of like a whole box of stuff I could donate, stuff that I just didn't like as much anymore. I'd gotten better options because there's actually a really cool organization close to me called Scrap to It or Scrap It Again, or I don't know, but they it's just all used art supplies, so I was able to donate that. But I was shocked at how many things that I have actually actively used in that craft closet within the last 6 months that I was like, well, I've used it. I shouldn't get rid of it.
I know. I think we both we tap into a lot of different mediums and supplies and stuff. Yeah. Somebody on here just asked if we have considered teaching an online class. Lacey does have a class already. She's got YouTube classes that are like full length classes. And then she also has a really, really good teachable class that's like, how many hours is that class of content?
Well, condensed, because I do speed through certain areas because I know most people are impatient like me. I mean, it's probably 6 or 7 hours worth of like actual work and stuff like that, but I think it's condensed down to about 3 hours of instruction where you can work at your own time. And it'll take you everything from like, I just got this, how do I open basically the watercolors and get started?
Right. Yeah. Lacey, somebody said bring your camera down so we can see you. I think because it looks like on my screen there's like a lot of table and your...
I did it like that so I could ideally show some stuff right here. Let's see if is that better?
I think so, yes. Yeah, but that teachable class, Lacey's teachable class has it starts from like the very beginning steps of learning watercolor. So for people who want to learn how to paint watercolor and you've never done it before, the teachable class has like basic stuff working up to like bigger projects. So it's really, really good if you're trying to learn. And I have thought about doing online classes. I just haven't done it because I just haven't had time, which is...
But Andrea needs to. She needs to.
The lame excuse. My husband, Steven's always like, you make time for the things that are important to you. I'm like, I know. Right now, it's like, it's just too much, but I might get there at some point. So
I do have some ideas too on doing lower pressure classes because I'm in the process of editing like a full scale landscape watercolor class that is going to be really good. I'm really excited about it, but it's got at least 7 videos in it, and each video is taking me like 4 full days of editing work to do,
right,
to mention the painting and stuff, and my brain just cannot focus. So hopefully that'll come soon, but like I would like to do more classes where maybe we do like more like a Zoom thing so people could actually ask questions, show me what they're doing and that kind of thing.
ideally in the future, but I don't know. I need to figure that out.
I know. Well, and that's the whole thing is like, I think I spend probably way too much time on my videos for TikTok and Instagram. And so I don't know. It's just like, it just feels all consuming to just make tutorials on here. So then the idea of making like a longer one is like,
yeah,
it's a lot. It just feels like a lot. But anyway, so.
Well, I'm seeing a bunch of different questions, and I want to make sure that we address some of them. Why don't we start with the ones I've seen in the comments, and then we'll go back to the ones that I wrote down, since in case people have to jump off that are on here. There was one question about what watercolor brushes do you recommend? And I know we have slightly similar but slightly different suggestions for this, so this might be a good one to jump in on. Because yeah, there's no one right answer to anything in watercolor or anything in art. So I think it'll be helpful to hear both of our opinions on different things.
Right.
So I guess I'll get started. I am biased. I do have this brush made, and I do sell this brush. It is a round brush with synthetic bristles in a size 12, and I paint 95% of everything I paint in watercolor with this single brush. And I really love it. I also think it's good to have a flat wash brush. And then you can get pretty much anything you want, but that's what you're going to do the majority of your painting with, is something similar to that. And I think I have the same brush too, and I do like the brush that Andrea uses as well, but I do think it's a little more advanced because there's less control over it.
Are you talking about the Princeton brush?
I was talking about the silver box. Yeah.
So I have kind of switched a little bit. I find myself going for the Princeton now more often than the silver. So I think with the silver brushes, like you can see the way that it's shaped.
Yep.
It holds more water than like this brush does because the bristles are fatter. So like for somebody so both of these are size 8, but you can tell like this one is longer and this one is fatter. So I think if you're just starting out, the Princeton is probably a better choice. And then I don't know if people on here know the Mightier Pencil. She's another TikTok account that I have become friends with. And she is an amazing artist, but she sent me some paints and she sent me this Princeton size 6. And this is one of the Heritage Princetons, which I had not used before. And I find myself going to this one a lot. So Mightier Pencil, go follow her because she's really, really good. And she knows a lot of stuff. And also the Princeton brushes are very good.
Some question here about the recommended sizes for beginners. I have one thought on that, and you'll notice. So I typically like bigger brushes, and Andrea's are a little bit smaller that she likes to paint with. But my main thing is if you can find one with a good point, the bigger is fine. You can make the same size little tiny strokes with a big brush. You're going to find something that's comfortable for you, but it's more than likely going to fall between that 8 and 12 range to begin with.
Yeah, so I just did a tutorial before I got on here that I'm going to post. I don't know if it's going to get posted today or tomorrow, where I painted a peony. And let me show you. Hold, please. I'm coming right back.
Let's see.
Let's see the peony. Okay, so this video is coming up. This is what I painted. So I just painted this one. I did a step-by-step. And I used the silver 10 to do it. Because when you're painting something like this where you want to get like kind of looser with your strokes, it's better to use a bigger brush. If you're trying to do something that's like super precise, you can use the smaller brush, but like Lacey was saying, even like the point on the 10, you can I did the stem with the 10.
Yeah.
So yes. Yeah. So that's brushes. Yeah. Somebody asked about brushes for kids. So I don't really think it matters like I think a kid could use any of these. They're just probably more money than you want to spend for a kid. Like the silver ones especially are pricey. So I would just buy some like inexpensive watercolor brushes. But as far as like the length of the handle and stuff, they're all pretty standard. Like even when you get like a Crayola set, the brushes are still like that long. So
yeah, if I were buying for like a kid, I would look for synthetic bristles, which are typically those kind of yellowish bristles. I'd wait for Michael's to have a sale on brushes, and I'd get a variety pack. Maybe even ones that have like some of the sponges and things in them, just because it would be fun for the kids to play around with a variety of things.
right.
Funny.
I'm just looking back here at some of the questions, but yeah, I think I did buy, this is probably bad to say, but I'll say it anyway. I did buy a set of the Artist Loft watercolor brushes because I was going to test them, and I took the first one out of the package and it broke immediately. I was like, oh, okay,
oh, no.
That's not great. So no, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend those, but anywho, how much do the brushes run? It really depends on what you're buying, but you can buy, like Princeton has a set on Amazon that's like $10 and you get like 3 or 4 brushes, I think. So that's probably what I would go for, is the Princeton set. The silver brushes can be like $20 for a brush or more, depending on
which is also why I don't use this one as much, because I'm terrified of ruining it, because it was like $25 for a single brush.
This is my original one. You can see I've left it in the water, and so all the stuff has peeled off of it, and I just keep using it and abusing it. And I did buy another one. But yeah, it doesn't look great. So, all right, what's another question, Lacey? We had a whole list.
Yeah. So another one that somebody asked, well, there's actually been a couple since, but somebody was having trouble with a Streaky Sky, and I typically find that when people are having trouble with streaks, you're actually just pushing too hard with the brush. You kind of want to like lay this on and let the surface tension of the water and the brush and the paper just kind of all glide together. Whereas if you're like pulling it across, you're also going to be picking up pigment and smushing it across, which will cause the streaks.
I think the other thing is I was doing something where I was making a gradient for a video, and I filmed a clip of me saying Lacey's gradients are always perfect and mine are never perfect, and that's okay.
It is okay.
And then I cut it out. And then I cut it out because the video was too long. TikTok, like, I can't hold people's attention for more than 1 minute and 2 seconds. That is it. If it's longer than that, nobody wants. But
yeah, these are silver. People are asking,
yes,
silver black velvet.
Lacey's gradient washes are perfect. She's done them 8,000 times. Probably more than 8,000. When I do them, they still look streaky. And it is for the reason that Lacey's saying, because you're pressing too hard, you're being too aggressive, or your paint is not mixed up well enough in your washes. And so if you go back to the same little paint pot wash and you've got extra paint at the bottom, and then when you try to swipe it across, you're going to end up with a streak going across. So there are ways to fix it, but also, like, the sky is streaky sometimes, so don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, I like to always say, like, so I teach these classes too for like corporate events, and I always like to say during class that we're going to either adapt and then we're going to hide or highlight things. So like the watercolor might tell its own story. So if you're making a sky and you've got streaks or you've got a weird spot, just use the other elements in it to frame it, to tell the story that has kind of evolved naturally on the page.
Right. So you make it a feature. I think that's a really good suggestion. Yeah. So
what people want to know about paint and paper too for recommendations.
Okay. So I have used there is paper towel stuck in it right now. I have used a koi set for pretty much as long as I've been using watercolor. I started with Winsor & Newton Cotman set, and somewhere along the way I switched over to koi, this koi set, and this is like my third one I think that I've used. So this is what I use. And then you can see like I use the tubes for the colors that I like that aren't in this set, and I just keep them. It's not clean or neat.
No, most sets aren't.
Right. Yeah, I also do really like Lacey's set. I don't know, is your set still available?
It is, but just for a limited time. I am working on ordering new sets, though. But I am almost out.
I really love that set, and I kind of like, it's this set. Yeah, it's kind of a mess because I've used it a lot, but this is Lacey's set, and I use this set all the time, but she was sold out for a while, so I stopped using it in my videos because people were getting so mad. Don't get mad at my friend. So I guess if you still have some, I'll go back to using this. I had let it go.
A couple, and I'm working on 2 new sets. There will be another one that has 12. And it's a very similar set. I have amended a couple things just based on some feedback that I've gotten. I still really like this set, but if I'm going to order a whole bunch more, I'm going to change a few things. And then I'm going to work on a set of 18 too. I'm trying to get them in a tin where it'll have open spots so that you can add other colors to it as well. Nice. Just because I kind of like the expandable nature. So I really like my set. But again, I'm biased to that. And I paint with a ton of other sets too, partially because I know not everybody can get my sets. And so
a corgi just popped up on my screen and wiggled its little bottom in my face. I've never seen that before. Thank you. Did you see it? Did you see the corgi?
I didn't see it actually, no.
Okay. Well, it was just okay, sorry.
But yeah, I do use the koi set quite a bit too. These do get it did it again.
People are gonna really throw me off if they keep sending me dogs because I won't be able to just not. Oh, so the people that are on my live can see the corgi. Yeah, I want you to see it. Okay.
Yeah, so I do use the koi set. If you're a super beginner and you have limited access to art stores and things like that, this is a great one to get because it's available pretty much everywhere. So it's not difficult to get. It is going to end up looking kind of rough around the edges, but it still functions just fine. That's kind of the one thing about these. I'm not a huge fan of Winsor & Newton. I do use their stuff sometimes, partially because that's what almost everybody starts with. And it's not bad quality. I just think there's better pigmentation in a lot of other sets. Oh, I see a corgi. I've got a corgi butt on my screen now.
Oh, I'm so glad. I don't know. I just didn't want you to be left out of the
that does kind of throw you off for a second. I didn't expect it.
Yeah. Okay, somebody asked me about pink, so I'm going to cover that. I did do a video on it, but I use this opera pink. It is Daniel Smith, and it's, I want to say probably like $11 for this tube, so like not cheap. But this tube will last you a very long time. The thing to keep in mind with this pink in particular is that it is not light fast, so it is known to fade. So people have strong opinions on it. What's the word, Lacey? What's the word what's the term for it's like not non-archival. It's like there's a term for pigments that are not light fast.
Oh, I know.
You know what it is. I looked it up because I didn't know what it was, but then I can't remember.
Sounds like a tip of my tongue one. I bet somebody in the comments knows what we're talking about. As an alternate for pink, I do like our opera pinks. They're beautiful. But this is actually my favorite one. It's by Core, and it's called Quinacridone Magenta. And it has a light fast rating of excellent. So...
Okay. Yeah.
And here I can do a little swatch of it so you can see too. Oh, you want to swatch your pink so they can see it?
Sure. Hold, please. I've got some kind of schmutz on my glasses. And
Also, I didn't wear my glasses today just so people could tell us apart.
oh, good.
Okay,
I'm
and
so
I do
glad.
think we have the same glasses.
I think we do. And we did not do it on purpose. It is just the way that things go. Lacey and I will often come up with the same ideas for videos at the same time. Probably because we've talked about something related to it. But yeah, so here's my, did you do yours?
Not yet, but I was just going to share that one thing you can do is anytime you cut pieces of paper off, I stick them in a little glass, so I always have little tester strips just always ready to go.
You're so smart. Yeah. That's opera pink.
Here's the Quinacridone Magenta.
I didn't put quite as much in mine, sorry.
This is just generally a darker color. Like here, I don't have the same opera pink as you, but I do have another opera pink, and I can show you it next to it. This one has a slight purple undertone, where the opera pink won't have as much of that. But
so somebody asked in one of the questions if if we had to pick 5 colors, what would they be? And you know, you got to have like the primary color.
Magenta.
Yeah, very, very similar, not quite as fluorescent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've lost, what was I saying?
The 5 colors.
5 colors. 5 colors. Yeah. So obviously, like, you would have to have the primary colors. I feel like would have to be 3 of them so that you could make all the other colors. But then if I was going to pick 2, like, just special colors, it would be opera pink and indigo for me. What would it be for you?
So I have a hard time with the 5 color question because I mainly have 3 that I couldn't live without. Like I could paint the rest of my life using these 3 colors. And that is some sort of a yellow medium or yellow deep, just like a very basic yellow, or a yellow. Actually, okay, my 4th is yellow ochre because I love yellow ochre. But then it's
I never, ever use yellow ochre.
I love it. Then I have the Quinacridone Magenta and Phthalo Blue. And with these together, because this has a tiny bit of green in it, I can get like really interesting colors. And since this is like a nice bright pink, it makes gorgeous purples. It makes really good oranges with the yellow. So these are my 3 main ones.
Somebody asked what color is underused. I guess yellow ochre for me. I don't know. The other color that I really love is green gold, because green gold like is one of those colors that will look a certain way and in one spot and a different way in another spot. It goes more green, more gold, more blue. You get all kinds of different shades in it. So green gold is one that I would suggest buying in a tube.
I don't have that. I want it though. I'm going to need to get some.
You don't have any?
No, which is strange because I feel like I have everything.
Yeah. Somebody wants us to show how to blend colors. So I guess my question would be, do you mean blending colors like in like a wash, or do you mean blending colors like on paper?
Yeah, if they can clarify that, that would be great. And then there's a couple questions here that we can talk about while they're typing that in, because they're kind of simple ones. They have to do with sketching. One person specifically
wants said on paper.
On paper.
Sorry.
One person specifically wants to know if you draw your animals before you use the Gouache glue, and then people are asking just in general about sketching tips before painting. Okay.
So the answer to that is sometimes I do draw the animals and sometimes I don't. And it just depends on the animal. So like the first time, maybe just came in. She says hello. The first, like when I did the giraffe one, I didn't draw that out at all. I just did it because it's just like circles and lines. Mm-hmm. But if I'm doing something that feels a little bit more complicated, then sometimes I will sketch it out. And I like to sketch it out when I'm filming because I feel a great sense of pressure when I film stuff that like it's got to be perfect. So I always get worried that it's going to look weird unless I sketch it. So normally I do sketch it out, and I just use like one of these pencils that's like, I don't know the difference in the pencils, Lacey. Do you? Like the HB, whatever hardness?
I use a mechanical pencil because I'm too lazy to keep track of. Well, I do have pencils, but I use this. Actually, Nick got this for me. He found this on TikTok. It's I don't know what it is because it doesn't have any information. Oh, I might still have the package. But it like, you never have to click this down because it keeps like constant pressure. I don't know, but it's a nice mechanical pencil.
Hi. Yeah, so yes, I do sketch stuff out, and then I use either a kneaded eraser. A kneaded eraser is one of these erasers that's like stretchy. Look at how dirty mine is. This is Lacey and me. Like, I feel like this is the definition of us, is like her kneaded eraser is perfect and mine is filthy.
Maybe I was just playing with it. I don't know.
I don't know either.
This is a pretty new one too.
This one is, I dug this one out of the bottom of the bin yesterday. Anyway, okay, so yeah, so using a kneaded eraser is good because if you use, and I don't always adhere to this, sometimes if I can't find my kneaded eraser, I just use one of these, but this will break down your paper when you erase, and sometimes I think beginning artists a lot of times make this mistake where they sketch something out, they want to erase it on their watercolor paper, and then they wonder why their paper looks pulpy. It's because you messed up your paper with your eraser.
The other thing to keep in mind is like, you can erase just like this with these, but if I'm actually sketching, which I don't always sketch before I paint something, but if I am, what I try to do is I'll sketch it as lightly as I'm capable of, which is varying depending on the day. And then I will kind of like pull this apart so it becomes kind of like that foamy texture. And then I will just go like this, and it just like picks up some of it. Because when you're sketching before watercolor, when you put the graphite down, you can remove it to the degree that you can remove graphite while it's still just that. Because once you put a coat, any coat of any sort of watercolor, it locks it in. So those pencil marks will be there. And most watercolor artists don't mind pencil marks, but I know a lot of people don't like them. So the goal when you are sketching, if you don't like them, is you want to pick up as much of that so that just your eyeballs can see it, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the blending colors on paper thing. So I think the question that I get a lot, or the thing that people will tell me a lot, is that when they do a wet on wet technique, they can't get the colors to flow together the way that mine do. I don't know if that's what you're talking about when you're talking about blending the colors. Lacey, what are you going to show?
I'm just going to put them on and just see how well they blend in the middle.
Right. So that's more like putting two colors next to each other and then just letting them flow together. So you would do that if you're doing like a gradient wash.
Yeah.
If you're talking about doing like just letting the colors kind of mix on their own. So what I would do is put down, say I'm putting down a layer of water. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. There's water on there. You can see if I tilt the paper, it kind of makes a little pool down at the bottom there. And then let's say I add in pink and I drop that in there. So you can see it didn't spread that much. And that just has to do with the amount of water that you have on your brush and the amount of water that you have on the paper, right? So then if I go in and I pick up some of this blue color and I put that on there, they're going to blend together and do their own thing kind of how they want to.
Yep.
But if you really want your colors to be saturated in this wet on wet technique, you have to just keep loading up your brush with paint and adding color in. And even like, I'll let this dry a little bit and then I'll go back again and add even more to get that like highly saturated kind of look.
So I think this might be a good time. We got a bunch of questions about knowing how much watercolor to put down and much water and things. And this kind of overlaps with this topic of blending colors. And we talked about this before we got on, that there's not really a good straightforward answer to this because it does come with touch. But I want to try to demonstrate something. I don't know how well I'll be able to get the reflection to show you. But one way for you to get to know how things work is if you have watercolor paper next to you or whatever, do this with me. I'm going to do this with a blue wash so that we can actually try to see the reflection a little bit better. I usually demonstrate this with just clear water, but it doesn't work. What you want to do is you want to place a bunch of water down and color down on your paper. You want to make sure it's really saturated, like encourage it to stay really wet and have some of those puddles. Kind of like this. See how, yeah, like what Andrea was mentioning, that it moves around. Then you want to find a light source, and you want to actually hold this up to a light source, and you want to get to know the different stages of wet and dry on this paper. And you're looking for some visual cues. When I hold this up to a light source, and unfortunately I don't think I'm going to be able to see it in the video, but right now I've got a ton of water. So if I see the reflection, it's just shiny and it's just flat, like it's just basically like a little pond on the top. And at this point, if you add in any sort of color or any more colors, it's just going to flow all around. You're going to have very little control over what's going to happen. But as this kind of sits and soaks in, you're going to start to see, even while it's still glistening, you're going to start to see some of the divots and things or the texture of the paper. And that means it's soaked in a little bit. At this point, it's still going to spread a lot, but it's going to remain more or less where you place it. And then it's going to go through another phase where it's going to become kind of shimmery but mattified. And that is just going to soften the edges, but it'll stay pretty much where it is. And once all that, any sort of glisten and it's completely mattified, you're pretty much stuck with wherever you place the brush strokes or the colors. They're going to just be there.
Right. Right. So if you've got your paint down and your water down, and it's kind of in that like in between, it's not quite wet and it's not quite dry, and you go back and you look at it and you go, oh, that little spot right there is not, it's not quite as dark. I'm just going to touch it up. Well, now you've got this really wet spot right here. That spot is never going to blend in with the rest of it. There's like a short window of opportunity with watercolor when it's really wet that you can manipulate the paint within the water. But as soon as it starts to dry, you can't touch it anymore, or you're going to end up with what I have right here, which is now I've got a bloom, which a bloom is when you put water. If you take plain water and add it on to damp watercolor, you're going to end up with this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it.
Yeah, it pushes the pigment away.
Right. The water repels the pigment. And so you end up with this splosh. And that's what happened to me here. So now I've taken what was a pretty like uniform wash. And I've made it not uniform. And that's where people get super frustrated with watercolor, because they're like, but I just wanted to put just
one more.
Just one more. And it's like the paint's like, no, your time's passed. You may not.
The best thing to do is when you start to notice that things like that are about to happen, and this will take experience, best thing you can do though is just stop and dry it and then just start over.
Yeah.
On top of it, not like completely over.
Right. Well, and then I think it's like you were saying at the beginning where it's like, if there is a spot that you don't like, number one, probably nobody else would ever notice that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if it's really bugging you, then you have to just work with it. Like you have to make it into a feature. Or you have to decide how to cover it up later if that's what you want to do. But I think the biggest thing with watercolor is the knowledge that like
mm-hmm.
it does what it does and you can't control it that much. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
The other thing that just happened, I want to share this too. This is also going to depend. There's a term for this, and this is another one that I cannot think about.
Somebody said stop, drop, or stop, dry, and continue to roll.
Yes. I like that.
Yeah.
But one thing that there's a name for this, but I don't know what it is. And some colors, when you drop them in, are just going to kind of sit within the other colors, and some colors have this like effect.
Oh.
So like I actually have this on here. So this is Daniel Smith's Phthalo Blue, and if I put this here, let's see if I can get closer to the camera so you guys can see what happens. Because then when I add in this core has that effect. That's the technical term. But watch how see how it like pushes the other color away. And some colors just kind of do that. And so one of the best things you can do for yourself, regardless of what type of watercolor you're working with, is do some experimentation so that you're aware of certain colors that do this and certain colors that will just kind of sit and just kind of, they're like heavier.
Which one was that did that?
That's the core. I find that that a lot of the pinks do that, and some of the yellows do that too.
Yeah, yellow. I think I would have put yellow at the top of the list of the ones that do that. The high level of. So somebody's asking about paper, mm-hmm. which I think kind of is a big thing. In my opinion, the paint matters much less than the paper. Like if you're going to invest in something to get started with watercolor, go for the paper. Because honestly, like you could do some great stuff with very inexpensive watercolor paint. But the paper, like you can't do certain things on cardstock. Like it just won't do it.
Yeah.
So it be like crazy expensive paper, but it needs to be like watercolor paper.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm glad you clarified that, because I was gonna say like maybe I have a really differing opinion, but most watercolor teachers I've ever talked to have said like you have to have 100% cotton, blah 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 blah. And like my opinion is always like, yeah, it needs to be watercolor paper because it just won't work. Like if you have something like cardstock or whatever, it just soaks through to the other side. It doesn't have the same effects. But even cheap, like 90-pound watercolor paper, which isn't my recommended, but my main thing is whatever you're going to use is the best one for you. Because if you're going to buy arches and it's going to sit and you're never going to paint on it, then there's no point in having spent the money on it. So might as well buy something you're going to use. I've started with Canson, and it's still a nice, good standby. Is it the best paper in the world? No, but it is reasonably priced. It works pretty well, and I'm not afraid to just use it.
Right. Yeah, I use Canson, and then I did a video on this, but I found this Grumbacher at Walmart, which Grumbacher is a pretty big name in art, so I was kind of surprised to find it. But I like this. The only thing I would say about the Grumbacher is that it's highly textured, so you end up with a little bit of that kind of textured look in your painting. But so Grumbacher from Walmart is good. I also use the Artist Loft brand from Michaels. I use this a lot. And then I found this one on Amazon, which I have been using for a lot of my tutorials. It's Artisto. And all of these are 140 pound. So they're a little bit, like if you look at the paper, like it's pretty sturdy paper. And then my favorite nice paper, which is not cheap, is the Arches paper. And I feel like I use the Fabriano Artistico paper sometimes too, but I feel like the Arches paper is probably the one that I hear most artists refer to as being like their favorite paper.
Yeah.
But I just had to buy this pad, and I want to say it was like $18.
That's all?
Yeah.
The last time I bought a pack like this, it was $45.
Okay, but I bought I would have to look back. I bought 11 by 14 also, and it was just under 50. Mm-hmm. So the smaller one was less expensive. This one is 20 sheets.
Yeah, whereas like a thing of Canson, you're looking at like $6 or $7.
Right.
So.
But this one's only 12. This one's only 12 sheets.
Yeah.
But I think it was only like $15. I don't think it was that. It was on Amazon. It was. I'm pretty sure it was under $20. So. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have Arches too. It is really nice. I actually have a new obsession with, so Arches comes in a range of things. So let's talk about paperweights really quick because we've kind of glossed over this. But typically watercolor papers come in 3 different options of weights, mainly 3 different options of weights. You've got 90 pound, which is pretty much reserved for like practice, experimentation, swatching, kids type things. And then there's 140 pound or 300 GSM, in case we have anybody who's not in the US who's watching. And that is going to be that kind of nice thick paper. It's not going to buckle too much, but it still buckles a little bit. And then there is 300 pound paper, and it is thick. Like it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything. And if you're going to go buy something, like, can't bend it really. It's like,
and you don't really have to tape it down.
Yeah.
Because it's so thick.
Yeah, but 140 pounds is the key for like.
Somebody said that they went on Amazon and checked the Arches paper, and it was $18.50 for 12 sheets. So
okay, cool.
Maybe you need to buy some Arches paper on Amazon.
Maybe. So yeah, Arches. So we talked about paperweights. Then let's talk about finishes because somebody was asking about cold versus hot press. There's actually a couple different types. So if you're having trouble remembering the difference between cold and hot press, think about what you might do with an iron. So if it's hot press, it's going to be super smooth. I don't like to paint on hot press paper personally. I find it a lot less forgiving. But some people really like that. They like being able to see the individual strokes and things like that. I prefer cold press paper because I like the texture and I like how it's a little more forgiving. But my current obsession is with this Arches rough. And so it is even more textured than the cold press paper. And I really like it. And then when we're talking about types of paper too, you'll notice that Andrea and I both have this one where it's just 12 sheets and these are just individual pieces of paper. But when I'm buying more expensive paper, I like to buy them in these blocks. So all the pieces of paper, see, they move as one because they're all glued on the sides. And then you don't have to do any taping down because it's just kind of stuck together.
So you got to show them how there's the one little section that's not glued, and that's where you break it apart. Because when I first started with watercolor, I was like, I don't know how to get the paper apart.
Right here. So on Arches, it's right here in the middle. And then it depends on the set. So like this is another block. This is Academy watercolor paper. I got recommended this as like a cheaper alternative to Arches. And I like this one, but honestly, it's not that much cheaper than Arches is for the same sizes. So I'm like, it's okay. And then, and on this one, it's on a corner, I think. Where is it? Yeah, it's like
some of them aren't black and it's hard to find it. But once you find that little gap in the glue, you can stick like a palette knife or something skinny, a regular butter knife or whatever, and just slide it across, and that'll undo it.
Yeah, and Canson does make an Arches equivalent. This is actually really nice paper. It works basically the same way. and it just has a slightly different texture to it. I don't use Strathmore very much because I don't like, it feels like it has a really regular texture to it. I like it to be a little more irregular, but it's a good paper. It's just not my preference.
I don't use Strathmore ever, really. Yeah. Somebody wants to know about practice ideas for beginners.
I've got lots.
I know,
I've got a whole new series too, where it's literally like practice and then you collage with it so that your practice doesn't go to waste. I've just posted a bunch of those recently, so got some there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think process art is really good for practice.
Yep.
Like not trying to make a thing, but just playing with the paint. That's always really my recommendation for people who are just starting out is like, of course, if you followed me for 5 minutes, you know I like to paint circles.
Yeah.
I always paint circles. So painting circles, painting just like squiggly lines, like abstract stuff, and not worrying about what you're painting, but just learning how the material works, I think is the best way to start because it takes the pressure off. But I think if you want to paint something that's like a thing, looking at a tutorial is probably the best way to do it and following step-by-step instructions, because I think for me, when I was first starting out, I felt like it was something I could figure out on my own.
Yeah.
And then I would get frustrated when mine didn't look the way that I wanted it to look. So if you listen, it's like anything else.
Yeah.
You have to listen to people who know, and that's the best way to learn.
I think that's a really good point because watercolor to me is more like a scientific method than any other type of painting. And so if you actually watch a tutorial, like I know when I design my tutorials, I'm specifically trying to like point out certain processes or techniques so you can see them in use. Because if you're not aware of like how to layer or how to drop in color and things like that, you're going to just like not be able to make it to the final end point. Whereas like acrylic, like just going like this, you're going to eventually figure some stuff out. But there's like actual stuff you have to like know how to do in watercolor.
Right. Yeah. This is true. What else do we have? What other questions did you have on the list?
Let's actually go to the ones that I grabbed from the videos. So Sunny asked us to talk about different types of watercolor. As far as different mediums, pencils, markers, crayons.
Right.
It's also a good time to talk about, because somebody also asked about tube versus dry paints.
Right.
And some stuff around there. So yeah, let's talk about all the forms of watercolor.
Okay. So obviously like this set is what they call half pans. So it comes with your paint and it's dry and you add water to it to activate it. When you get a tube like this, it's going to come out wet. I'll show you. And you have to find a place to put it. So you might just keep some on the back of your palette like this, or you can get empty little half pan sets and you can fill it with these tubes. Now what's going to happen is
one here.
Yes. So it comes out wet, you make it your little puddle in your pan or on the back of your palette or whatever. If you do nothing to this, it's going to harden and it's going to be like this. Mm-hmm. So all of these started out in tubes and now they're solid.
But then you can just reactivate them.
Yeah. So you just add water to it to paint with it. So the tubes are useful for like creating your own palette with the colors that you want. And it's also good for like getting, I was going to say it's good for getting more value out of your money, but I guess you would have to know that you're going to use this color a lot. But like one tube is going to last you a really, really long time because you can fill up, like how many half pans can you fill up with a tube this big? It's a lot.
Thank you. They also make liquid watercolor too. which is not my favorite, but it is fun.
I don't really ever use liquid watercolor personally, unless we're doing
dye-based,
where I'm just playing with paint. But yeah, so there's that. So then the one that Lacey and I both get asked about all the time, and that Lacey and I both don't like, is
really exposing us here.
Watercolor pencils. Everybody wants watercolor pencils to be super cool, and they're just not for me. They're just not for me. And I did a little example, so I will show you. I gotta find it. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
Yeah, while Andrea is gone, I've got a set of watercolor pencils that I've had for 6 or 7 years, and I think I have sharpened 2 of them once. I just don't use them. They can be used for sketching outlines because then they can kind of disappear, but you can't erase them like normal pencils, so you have to be really good at sketching.
Okay, so I made this with watercolor pencils. So basically, I drew out the jellyfish, and then I use. So here's what you do. So you draw out the jellyfish shape with your pencil. So there it is. So there's the jellyfish shape. And then when you take a wet brush to it, it makes it kind of painty, but not like super painty. You see?
Yeah, I think somebody's asking what don't we like specifically about it, and I think it's what you're kind of showing here, where it's like it kind of turns into paint, but you mainly still see the pencil line, but it's kind of a grainy pencil line.
So this is what it looks like when it dries, and for me, it's like I either want a pencil or I want paints, or I want to paint something and then I want to put pencil over the top of it, but it just doesn't look the way I want it to look, and it's not very vibrant, and it's just like, it's just not the best. And then the other thing you can do with it is you can scribble out like a blob and then add water to it, and then you can use that as paint. So you see. So I just wet my blob of watercolor pencil and turned that into paint that I could use. But like, why? Why would I want to do that when I could just use paint? Like, I don't know. It's just not for me. It's just not for me.
I'm having trouble finding mine, but as an alternate to pencils, I actually really like the watercolor markers. Like if you're looking for something that's feels more sketchy, but has really good pigmentation and moves more similar to watercolor markers are better. I know you have some crayons too you wanted to talk about.
I do.
So while you talk about those, I'll try
somebody on here that says that they love watercolor pencils, and they said, I love watercolor pencils when I use it only in some areas. It doesn't blend well. So maybe it's the blending that we don't particularly like. Yeah, so I got these watercolor crayons, and I think that they are way better than watercolor pencils. So I need another little piece of paper. So let me draw out, let's say we're going to draw out a jellyfish again. This is a horrible, horrible looking jellyfish. But so I drew out the jellyfish with the watercolor pens. Oh, there's pink in that brush. Hold, please. I did not wash my brush off. Let's see. Okay, so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. I didn't pick a dark enough color. I'm going to use a different blue. Let's see. So if this is our jellyfish and we put water, oh, if I hold it up, it's going to run. If I use water on these crayons, it's way blendier than the watercolor pencils. I have too much water on here right now, and it is now going to run, but you can see like it's more saturated.
Yeah.
And it almost gives it like a creamy texture. I don't know. I like the watercolor crayons way better than the pencils, personally. And I also
markers too.
I also think it's just fun, like if you've got, we'll go back to this. Say we've got this blob of watercolor paint that we're messing with. You can actually take the watercolor crayons and run it through the paint over the top of it, and it will kind of let you draw, I don't know if you can see, draw with the paint and the crayon at the same time. So it's almost like if you dipped the crayon in water, it gives you more of like a painterly kind of look to it. I don't know if you can see what that looks like, but it's very fun to drag your crayon through your paint. And I don't think that you could do that with a pencil.
You can to a degree, it does it, but because it's not like there's not that creaminess, so it just, I think there's something freer about something like crayons too, where it kind of feels like if I'm going to switch up the medium, I kind of want like a really free type feeling. I don't know what it is.
Well, you know, just looking at these two, I think the other thing is a pencil point is so fine.
Yeah.
It's just too sharp. I think that's what I don't like about it. I think I don't like the sharpness of it.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Here's the watercolor marker. So these are brush tip pens, and I can kill two birds with one. So somebody was asking about one of these water pens. These are great for travel. You just fill them up with water in here, and then when you squeeze it out, water will come out of the tip like that. And so if you can use a normal brush on this too. I don't use these very often, except for when I'm traveling. Like this is what I will pack for a lot of things. But when you just kind of like then touch these, oh, I've got other color in this. I also got a little brush surprise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once you kind of move that around, these move pretty well. You can kind of see. I'm gonna have to work on them a bit, but concentration face. This is why I always have top down videos.
Someone has asked multiple times about the career of being an artist, the classes, and how many years. And the answer is Lacey and I are both self-taught. So
yep.
Zero hours of classes. I mean, like we've both taken classes online, and like I took classes with a local painter and stuff, but neither one of us went to art school. So
yeah, like the closest I did was I took any elective that my college degrees allowed me to take some sort of art class. So I did like a 3D design class where I reconstructed a boombox using only cardboard.
Nice.
And I took a drawing class in college. I also took like a animation and a Photoshop type class as some electives and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Lacey and I have talked about this a million times because we've both talked about, like, in your head, you think maybe you would want to go to art school, but then the reality is it might ruin it.
Mm-hmm.
It might take the fun out of it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Somebody,
I've seen a lot of people talk about that. They can't paint or they can't create for years after art school.
right. Somebody was asking about gouache, and gouache is, this is a gouache set. So gouache is basically a different kind of paint. It's a more opaque paint, so it's kind of like between watercolor and acrylic. So with gouache, you can actually layer color on top of color in a way that you can't with watercolor.
Yeah.
So like watercolor, you pretty much have to work light to dark. And with gouache, you can kind of manipulate it a little bit more. I did when I did that workshop week thing, I took a class in gouache. So this was a gouache painting, and you can see that like the little lighthouse was added at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So the white of the lighthouse, you're able to put that on top of the sky, where in watercolor they will put white in your watercolor sets, but it's not like true watercolor. It's more like gouache. It's going to be hard to bring light back into a watercolor painting unless you use gouache or a gel pen or a paint marker or something else, where with gouache you have more flexibility, but you also get a look that is less transparent than watercolor. So like it's gonna look heavier. If I were to paint the same flower in gouache, it's not going to have that transparency. It's going to have a much heavier look to it. So it's really about like, what do you like?
Yeah, they're usually, gouache is more mattified. It has to do with opacity. So they're basically the same like formula. And a lot of times when you see handmade stuff, like some of my handmade paints have some transparency, but some of them have less, and they kind of like are in the in-between between watercolor and gouache. You'll see that in a lot. I've got a sample of something I painted this same twice, once in watercolor and once in gouache. I don't know where it is though.
Somebody asked about doing white highlights. What do we use? So for the eyes in my animals, I use a white jelly roll pen, which you can get these at like Target or Walmart. Like you can get them anywhere. They're very inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
Couple bucks for like a 5-pack of jelly roll pens. I will say they don't last. Like the number of times I go to use a jelly roll pen and it won't work because I'm not nice to them. That's why. And then Posca markers are, for me, the most reliable paint pen that I've found. So the white one is what I will use in doing highlights and stuff like that. So yeah. Somebody said that they went to art school because they were having artist block and that they did not agree that it causes artist block. So, I mean, I think it's a general statement. Like, some people might get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Some people get a lot out of it. I think it probably also depends on your stage of life.
I think that's true. You know what's funny is, so like every once in a while I think about going back to school, and I do think about going for art, but my most recent thing, I'm like, you know what would almost be more helpful? I should go back to school for chemistry, because then I could better understand all the art supplies and the interactions between things and like the different molecular makeups. So like sometimes I think about that instead.
You should do it. Go for it.
I'd hate math and things like that. Well, I don't hate them.
Right.
And now that I have more of a reason, maybe I would understand.
I went back to get my master's when I started back when I was 32. And Wes was, let's see, Wes would have been like 7 when I went back, and he said, "You might be too old."
Oh, brother.
And I was like, "You're probably right."
No, I don't think there's any reason to ever limit based on age. I do wonder, so like I guess as far as background too, since that this is kind of part of the question, Andrea, you were a teacher. So you have education as far as your background in education. I went to school for business. Both my master's and my bachelor's are for marketing and business.
Yeah, but that is very helpful, I think, for you for running your art business.
To a degree, except for, marketing stuff moves so fast now that by the time when I learned in college, by the time I was trying to apply it, there's like all the different things are different by the time you actually get a job. So you just have to learn how to figure it out anyways.
Right. Yeah. Someone asked if stress or anxiety ever causes us to not want to do art.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely times when I find it hard to start. Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? I thought about doing a video about this. I took a bunch of art supply, like watercolor supplies with me on vacation, and I only painted twice. Yeah. And partially, I think it was because I felt like, in a way, like art is my job and I was on vacation, so I just didn't want to do it. But then the other part of it was I had to like get everything out and set up and ready to make art on vacation. Where here, if I walk past the door to the art room, it calls me because all my stuff is everywhere. And I'll be like, even like late at night, I'll think like, I'm just going to go try this one thing. I just want to try this one thing, this idea that I had. And because I have a dedicated space, it's easy to just like quickly do something. But I didn't start out with a dedicated space. Yeah. And most people don't have a dedicated space unless you're making it your career. So I think that can be a big barrier to making art because it feels like a lot of work.
I totally agree. And also like when you get stuck on something, like right now, so I do a lot of acrylic painting too. And right now I'm kind of stuck because I don't know what I'm going to do with these big paintings. And instead, my latest obsession, I've been taking that pottery class. Yes. And so yeah, I'm learning how to throw pots, and I saw some of mine get loaded into the kiln finally the other day, and I cannot stop thinking about it. Like I woke up this morning and was like, I want to touch clay so bad. It's just
it was going to happen. I meant to ask you about it, about how it was going. It's not surprising to me that you're so into it. Yeah. I just watched the like second to last season of the Great Pottery Throwdown. I have one more season to watch, but
that's why we signed up. We watched that and we were like, I was like, I need to do this.
I know. I would love to try it, but I'm the same way. Like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep because I'm thinking about something I want to make. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's like, it happens a lot. So it's, yeah, I mean, I think definitely there are times when I get into like a
funk or something.
I don't know, a rut of like months will go by and I don't do acrylic at all. Yeah. Now I've started doing more acrylic for videos, so that kind of keeps me going. But like the peony video that I filmed today, I started it by saying I was gonna paint that peony in acrylic and I just couldn't do it. Like there are times when acrylic just feels like too much. And then there are other times where I'm like dying to get into the paint of it.
Yep. What do you think that is? Because I have the same exact feeling. There are some times where it's like, I want to paint. And like, if you told me I had to paint with watercolor, I'd be like, go away. I hate you. I want to play with acrylic. And there are other times where it's the complete opposite.
I don't know what that is. I think the other thing is like, I think when I paint with acrylic, I typically have this idea in my head of a finished product of like, I'm going to make this cat and I'm going to make it on a canvas and I'm going to hang it on my wall and it will be finished and it will be cat. But when I paint with watercolor, so often I just sit down and just start like making random stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be anything, but it might turn into something.
Yeah,
so
like this. I feel the same way. I played around with how to make marble with.
What is that? Wait, back. I want to see what's in your other hand. Is that a whale? I can't see it.
No, this was supposed to look like marble. I was thinking about rocks, and I was like, I could make.
Okay, so this is funny because yesterday I was like, I want to paint like a sea scene that's like a mountain landscape, like one of your mountain landscapes, but like waves with different colors.
Oh.
And I started that, and then I was like, it needs a boat. And so then I put a boat in there, and I was like, the boat is dumb. I hate the boat. I want something attacking the boat. So I made an octopus attacking the boat. And I really, really like it. So then I was like, I want to actually paint this. So I started a painting and I put masking fluid on so that I can do the octopus the way I want. And in the process of doing that, I spilled half the bottle of masking fluid on this one and like ruined this one. But this was just like a sketchy sketch thing. But that's what happened there. So then this one I will make someday or not, depending on that. Yeah, and I've been really into painting birds lately.
Yeah, I'm on a bird kick too. We were talking about this the other day. This is one that we did not talk about beforehand, and then when we were talking the other day, we're like, yeah, I'm painting birds too.
I'm painting birds. I don't know why. And they're very like silly kind of birds. I don't know what's going on.
This is my latest painting too.
Hold it up closer so I can see it.
I think I sent you a picture of this.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine, I've done like this one. This was where it started. So this one, I did this the other day too. So I made an angry bird. It's an angry bird. And then I made like nice birds. And then I made flowers. And then I transitioned to these birds. So I think I'm going to do a bird. I think I'm going to do a bird video.
You should. Oh,
because I like birds.
We're almost out of time anyways, but I want to just, tomorrow I'm doing a live class and we're going to paint these snapdragons, by the way.
Oh, I love those. Yes, an angry titmouse. That's what it was. Have you ever illustrated a book? No.
But Andrea needs to.
Well,
Andrea is also a poet, if you didn't know it. You knew I had to. I had to say it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So my undergrad degree is in creative writing.
Yeah.
So that's weird. All right. So is that a mixed media sketchbook? Yes. I have a lot of different sketchbooks, but
me too.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people are saying, please do birds. They want birds. Birds are really easy to paint.
Mm-hmm. It's like a blob with a line and then you add a beak.
Exactly.
Maybe a mohawk.
Right. All right. So I guess we're done. We did it. World Watercolor Month has been kicked off.
Yes. Welcome. I've got a whole series. I'm going to go through pretty much everything 1 minute-ish at a time for the rest of the month. I'm ideally going to be launching my landscape class. Andrea and I have played around with maybe doing a couple more lives together where we might paint the same thing, but show you how we both individually do it. Because one thing I want everybody to keep in mind is there's no one singular way to achieve anything in art, and everybody's going to have a slightly different approach, and that's totally fine. The best thing is if you have interest in it, is doing it. I do lives every other week on my channel, so I'll have one tomorrow, and then in 2 weeks from then, but Andrea and I are hopefully going to come back on and paint something together as well.
You know what we should do? We should come back and paint birds.
Yes, we should, since we're both doing bird stuff.
Yeah, maybe next week we could we can plan a bird live.
I got a corgi butt.
I did too. Yeah, so and as far as World Watercolor Month goes, Lacey's so good about like planning out her content. I'm not. I just fly by the seat of my pants. It's whatever I feel like making in any given day. But I do plan to do a lot of watercolor for Watercolor Month. And then the other thing that I have going on is, believe it or not, Crayola asked me to be the speaker for World Watercolor Month, which is crazy. Crazy.
I know.
So it's the most nervous I've ever been.
That's so cool, though.
So they just posted it. So it's going to be on the 20th at 7:00 p.m. on Facebook. And so it's basically like a simulated live where we filmed it a couple weeks ago, and then they will air it on July 20th at 7 p.m.
Yeah. And
I will be on the live stream, like answering comments and questions. And I saw it yesterday. It's like 40 minutes. Oh, and it gives me anxiety just thinking about myself talking. So it's like 20 minutes of interview with me, and then like 20 minutes of me painting and doing an couple of activities. Yeah. So that's coming. That's coming.
That's exciting. That's super exciting.
It is very exciting. It is so I have this whole box of like stuff that Crayola sent me that I haven't even used. So I need to do like.
We got some fun stuff coming, Lynn. Also, as one thing is people have asked a couple of times in here, and I have not addressed this. I'm really sorry, but yes, we did this. We started. Wow. I'm gonna reset. Just hold, please. Okay. I had Andrea join my live so that I would have access to this ideally. I don't know if it's going to let me download it, but if it lets me download it, I will be uploading this to my channel in case you missed part of this and you want to go back in through our questions and things like that. It'll be available in a day or two.
Yeah, on YouTube. So, yeah. Okay. All right. What else? You got anything else coming up?
That's it.
Notebooks. My notebooks are in the shop. I've got a video that's going to go up this weekend. But if anybody, so those of you who are on the live who have been waiting for notebooks, there are notebooks in the shop. So you know it first before anybody else. Yeah, I made a video and it made me really laugh. So we'll see. Maybe's back. Maybe says hello.
Hi, Maybe.
All right. I know. Here.
Say hi to Maybe.
Look, she's like, no way.
Maybe not.
Maybe I don't do TikTok. That's what she says. Okay, so we'll jump off. This was fun. So I'm thinking we do another one. We paint birds.
For sure. Birds. Well, it was good to see your beautiful face, and thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, guys.